Hey everyone, welcome back. So you might not remember, but I think it was December last year into 2023, I did a review of the TIDRADIO or TID-Radio H8, the Generation 2 version of it. I had purchased it with my own money as intending to be a trail radio for my Jeep. And after reviewing it, playing it with it and using it, I liked it so much that I wound up buying 2 or 3 of them and giving away as Christmas presents, and I still like it. It still is my go-to radio for my Jeep, for trail rides and things like that, because I don't have a mobile radio mounted in it, which it might happen someday, but for right now, I really like this. Now, TIDRadio, they must have seen my video and liked it, which kind of shocks me, but nonetheless, they must have seen it and liked it and asked me if I'd like to review one of their other radios. And I said, sure. I mean, I liked the first one so much, why not look at another one? So they have sent me one here to check out today. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't even opened the box yet. So we're going to take a look at it together and get it charged. This is the TD-H3 two-way, and this is the GMRS version of it, which is something that I kind of thought they had done since I had tested the GMRS version of the H8. They come in both the GMRS version and a ham radio version, and if I remember correctly, and I do, this one at least can be unlocked so it can be both GMRS and ham. Now, these are certified GMRS or ham in the US, but only the one, not both or the other. So just be aware that if you unlock them, you're breaking some nebulous rule of the FCC. I do have both ham and GMRS radio licenses, and I will put the call signs below just so you know I'm not lying to you. There's a little card showing you how to get user manual program software, although it did come with what looks like a pretty nice user manual. There is a belt clip. Here is a charger stand. I wonder if it uses the same charger stand as the H8. That would be cool. There is a wrist strap, and it comes with both a charger cable and a wall charger. Comes with an antenna and comes with the radio, and it is quite a bit smaller than the H8. Let me get rid of the packaging so it's not in my way anymore. And it is quite a bit smaller. I mean, that is noticeably smaller. And like the H8, it's nice and chunky, which you guys, some of you might not like. I like. I've got great big hands, and I like things that fit. And got the ubiquitous LED flashlight on the top, got the antenna mount, got the on-off turn switch, still has the screen protector on it, and has a battery already in it. Let's turn it on. Oh, I did turn it on. Oh, it does come on. Okay. Nice. So, and it looks like it's fully charged as well. So let's get the antenna on it. Now, it is summertime in Arizona right now, and it is currently about 114 degrees out, and there isn't going to be anybody out on the trail or anything like that this time of year. Summertime in Arizona is like wintertime, someplace where it gets cold. We tend just to stay inside and kind of try and stay out of the weather, which will kill us if we give it an opportunity. Here's one thing I do like. The battery itself has a USB-C port on it, so you can charge the battery outside of the stand. All right, with the charging base plugged in, it's got a green light on the front, and it has some little projections here, some wings to make sure we guide it on correctly. And did I get that right? Oh, there it goes. Okay, there it goes. It turned red. So it is charging now. Nothing is on the screen because it is powered off, but it is charging. And I wonder, I bet we can plug the battery into that by itself without it being part of the radio. Let's give it a try. Can we do that? Oh yeah, look, if you want to, you can plug the battery in without the radio and charge it. And you can also, if you want, and this is the part I like, you can plug the battery by itself in, and the battery actually has a charge light which is red and green depending on whether it's charged or charging. I love all the charging options, honestly, I really do. That is, I think that's a big deal to me. As far as programming the TD-H3 is concerned, I think this radio has more ways to program it than any radio I have ever owned. You can, of course, if you're a glutton for punishment, try and program it through the front keypad. That is always an option. You can program it through the supplied USB-C cable and the free Chirp software. And I know a lot of people love programming through Chirp. I've done a bunch of it through Chirp in the past. You can program it with the Kenwood 2-pin cable if you have one. If you want to use the Kenwood 2-pin cable for USB, I highly recommend you buy a decent cable. I bought a cheapo clone knockoff and had a big battle getting the drivers installed, but with USB-C there, why even bother? And it also has wireless transmission, so if you have another radio that has wireless frequency copy available to you that has all the frequencies you want, you can press some buttons and hold the radios up close together and it will copy all the frequencies from one to another. I don't think I have another radio that does that. The H8 does not, I do not think. I may have another one, but it's a ham radio and I don't want to copy all those frequencies over to it, at least not right now. And you can use the Bluetooth app on the phone, which let's give a shot, because I did that with the H8 and I got to tell you, I thought it worked really, really well. So first thing we want to do is we want to press the Bluetooth button, and you have to press and hold the Bluetooth button, and then you'll see the Bluetooth icon appear right there. And hang on a second, I'm going to tame the screen down a little bit so that we can see the phone better. Okay, I'm hoping that's a lot better and we'll be able to see the phone screen there without a problem. So if I didn't mention it, first thing you do is you hold the Bluetooth button down until the Bluetooth icon comes on, and then you go to the app called OD Master, and I put an icon on my front screen just so I wouldn't have to fish it out. And I've already done this just to make sure it worked with it. So you tap here where it says, would normally say, what radio do you have? You pick out the radio you're using. We're using the TD-H3 for this. Tap there to connect Bluetooth, and it says TD-H3. And there's a little button here we have to tap to make it connect to that one. You may have more than one device in the list. And then we tap read, and it will read the current configuration, and you can also write the current configuration back to it and save it. And, you know, in case you want to start goofing around playing with it, you always want to save the current configuration first so that you can put it back to the way it was if you want. So here's everything we can do. Here's everything we can set. Here's the frequencies. Here's the menu settings over here under function. Here's even more menu settings. We can change all of that right here from the app without having to go into the small screen. I can't remember whether Chirp will let you change all the menu settings or not. Probably does. But here under channel, we can tap channel, and here it shows us which channels. The channels with the little green stripe that says data, it already has some information for frequencies. The ones that are in red do not. And we could tap on one and we could tell it everything we want to know about it. And we could say, there's one feature here that no radio I have ever owned has had, and that is this has two transmit buttons. And how that works, at least from what I've discovered, is you see the two channels I'm monitoring, channel 1 and channel 2, those are GMRS channels. When I press the top press to talk button, it transmits on channel 1, and when I press the lower transmit button, it transmits on channel 2. And also there are two LED lights up here. You'll notice when I press the top button, it transmits. I get that transmit LED. When I press that one, I get that transmit LED. And I have the H8 here set to the same two channels. And when I transmit on the top one there, you'll see I get a green light there. And when I transmit on the lower one, that green LED light. So if you're somebody who likes to monitor 2 channels and needs to talk occasionally on both of them, that just keeps you from having to press the AB button every time. You always know which one you're transmitting on based on which button you pushed. One thing worthy of note is the TD-H3 is airband compatible. 120.900 is the north tower of my local airport. Normally I don't get much here because I do live down in the valley, but you'll see it actually sounds pretty good. You'll see the AM indicator up there, and works as good as the other. Fact, it works a little bit better than the other radio I have that does airband. It just seems to be a little bit clearer. A couple other features worthy of note is this radio does have a mic gain and a voice scrambler, and you get to those by going to the menu, which is pressing the Bluetooth button once. And mic gain, if I remember correctly, and if I can make these teeny tiny little buttons do what I'd like them to do, mic gain is on menu item 45. There it is, and it goes from 0 to 9. And the voice scrambler is on menu item 46, and by default it is off. And to use the voice scrambler, you will need, the receiving end will need a radio that has the same function. It does have a nice color screen that I really like, and it does seem to be pretty easy to see out in the sun. The H8 was also easy to see out in the sun, but I think this one's even a little bit brighter and easier to see than the H8 screen. One negative is that it does not seem to have any water or dust resistance rating that I can locate. And that is kind of a negative because this is kind of meant to be an outdoor radio, kind of, you know, a shit hit the fan radio, something to be using on trail rides or on hikes. And I think it should have a rating. And you know what? It does look like it should be at least rain or splash proof and dust resistant, but without a rating it's really hard to tell. That's something I wish TIDRADIO would get handled on their radios. And of course this has a flashlight mode. The lower button turns the flashlight on and off, and it has that, and then it does the inevitable flashing, and then it goes off. It also has an FM radio, so you can press and hold the flashlight button and whoops, sorry about that, you get the FM radio. And pressing and holding it again turns that off. The battery in this is 2,500 milliamp hours, surprisingly enough, the same size that's in the much larger TIDRADIO H8, so it's going to have a pretty good battery life. It looks like it is only a 5-watt radio, whereas the H8, let me turn it on here and you will see it in the little power meter above, it shows 10 watts. I don't really know that I think that makes any difference in the scenario that most of us would be using this. Off-road communications, travel communications, things like that. The HT does frequency scanning, channel scanning. It has all the beeps and the tones and everything else that you would expect from a quality radio of this type. It also has a very solid feeling build quality. Very, very similar build quality feeling to the H8, which I thought was really good. Also worthy of note is that while this is an FCC certified GMRS radio, if you do this, I'll put the battery back in real quick. If you hold down the top, the larger of the two push to talk buttons, hold the star button and power it on, it will give you the option to switch between ham, GMRS, and normal modes. Now, I have not done this on the radio. I did this on the H8. It wipes the radio out and puts it back in its factory configuration with it every time you do it. So just be aware that you want to copy your settings and everything else either into the app or into Chirp before you do it. And I'm guessing normal mode is probably with everything unlocked. Can't guarantee that because I haven't tried it on this radio, but that is certainly the way it worked on the H8. So to get out of that, just turn it back off. The NOAA weather channels are also pre-programmed into this.
30%. Thursday.
There we go. They're on Mine is on 192, channel 192. I can usually pick up 2 from here. There we go, there's the other one. So I know the inevitable question is going to be asked me, which one do I like better, the H3 or the H8? Now I'm going to try to ignore the fact that the H8's in that bright green, which I know if I set it down I can easily find it again, because I do really like that. But just ignoring the difference in colors, and this is just me talking, this is some very subjective things. Some of the features, like being able to monitor and transmit on both channels without having to switch the AB button to do the transmitting, because it gives you 2 transmit buttons, and being able to tell which one it's coming in on by the LED lights, I think that's a pretty cool function. I just don't know that for me personally it would be something that would be very, very useful or valuable to me. I like the small size. The small size makes it a very handy radio to have and to carry. If you're hiking or you're packing this thing back in someplace, I'm sure you would appreciate that. But for somebody my size, for somebody who's planning on using it mainly in a Jeep, the larger size of the H8, the larger screen, the larger buttons, the extra buttons, I just think that's something that's really, really nice. Now, I wish the buttons on this one were up where the speaker was and the speaker was down here. I can see why they did it. There wasn't really enough room to get these larger buttons up there and this row of buttons. So it's obvious that they did it for that reason. I like the larger buttons. I like the larger font on the buttons. I like the button spacing better. I find these buttons, and not just these in particular, but buttons of this size, I find them hard to use with my giant ham fingers. I'm always pressing 2 or sometimes 3 at once, and it can be somewhat annoying. Also, I like the labeling on these buttons. I like the separate menu and exit button. I like the AB button up here being really obvious. To me, this is a much more user-friendly radio to use the buttons on than the H3. Now, that just comes from the size. There really wasn't much else they were going to do in the space of this. This has some dual function buttons. The Bluetooth button is the menu button. The AB button is the exit button, whereas here we have a separate Bluetooth button, a separate AB button, a separate menu, and a separate exit button. To me, it's just easier to pick up and use. But again, that's all size related. Another thing I kind of like better about the H8, the buttons got a kind of a rubber feeling cover over them. Don't know what it is, but they're definitely much more tactile feeling, and these are just as plastic, at the plastic the way it is. So, and the larger screen and the larger font, I just find it easier to see. Is it way easier? Not really, but it is easier. So these are some things that you're going to have to decide for yourself. One thing I will tell you, the screen on both of them, while very similar, and I haven't really tried changing the brightness on either of them, but the screen on the H3 is a little bit brighter. I can see it from an angle. You look at it from an angle, you can see it from an angle better. I should have taken the antennas off. It's just one of those things you're going to have to decide. For my use in the Jeep, I think I would take this one. Just as an all-around radio to play with for SHTF, end of the world type of use, or just for stowing in a backpack, I would take the H3 just because of its size. So my final thoughts on this radio without doing any kind of long-term testing is I like it every bit as much as I like the H8, which I like a lot, but for kind of different reasons. I like it because of its small size, its extra functionality, and if I didn't mention it, you can flash the firmware to this, and it's my understanding that there are custom-made firmwares out there that you can play with if you want, but its size and its high-tech, newer style capabilities like programming via USB-C, the dual transmit buttons, and the other things like that make it really, really attractive for its size and for its price. I think these sell for under $40, which is pretty amazing. I recommend it if you're looking for something like this. Seems like it works exceptionally well and is built really well. So before I go any further, I do want to thank TIDRADIO one more time for sending this out for me to review and to share with you guys. I want to thank you guys for using my affiliate links, and I assure you there will be one for this radio below. And I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye for now.